Hey, what's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in today's video. I want to share with you this painting and the process in pictures because I learned something very, very important here. So I'm going to look at the sections with you. We're going to go through a bit of everything, and then I'm going to show you some stages. Now, if you do want to learn how to paint with complete freedom and courage in watercolor and just be free of any worries as you do, check out the Frustration-Free Watercolor course, link in the description box below. Thank you so much to anyone who joins. Now, so this painting started basically when I took the picture. So I've been fascinated with this bike, motorcycle with a sidecar, and I really wanted to paint it for a while. Then I snapped a lot of photos of it, and this one ended up being my favorite because it has that strong contrast. I think one of the key features here is how the motorcycle does contrast with the taxi behind it. That's something really cool I wanted to capture. Now, aside from that, honestly, I didn't have a clear vision for the background. So the thing is, and this is going to get to the crux of my, I guess, my understanding and the new thing I learned. I didn't have a clear vision for the background, but I just went for it. Now, because I painted it almost section by section, stage by stage, but by placing in a light wash and then a slightly darker wash, and then realizing it wasn't nearly as dark as it should have been, and I gradually added all of the layers in, it ended up working even though I didn't have a clear vision for it. My vision was fully for this section. But even if you don't know how you're gonna paint stuff in the painting, it really doesn't matter. It's one of those on-the-job training kind of a thing. Once you put some stuff in, the vision comes to be. You can't always imagine everything ahead of time. Very often what will happen is, just like I talk about reactionary painting, your painting will be a reaction to what is starting to emerge on paper, right? So if I'll give you just a quick kind of zoomed in view here, I knew how I'm gonna paint the car, the taxi, and the motorcycle with the sidecar, and I was a bit confused here. I used a different opaque pale green because I wasn't sure about what color I wanted to use. It ended up working okay, but it's not perfect for sure. But a lot of that confusion didn't matter because I did have a clean vision for this entire section. Once I got that down, everything else kind of fell into place gradually. So these this foliage here, I knew it needs to kind of wrap around this, and even though they're both green, it's gonna contrast against it because it's dark enough. This was too light, I darkened it, made it perfect. I knew that a big part of the motorcycle is how this transparent plastic surface is going to show everything that's behind it. I knew that this transition here is going to be key, but once I got that down, I told myself I'm not going to go over it again. I'm not going to darken it again. That left me with just the background and the lower section. It's not asphalt really, it's actually a pavement with a pattern there. So once I had that focal point in, things started to emerge. For example, I realized how I'm going to paint this car with this lovely reflection on it based on how it's going to relate to my focal points. I painted the background based on how it's going to relate to my focal point. Now here is the biggest understanding of them all. This yellow, I have tried mixing something that is brighter than that. I just couldn't. Everything was too dark. Every yellow I used got it too dark. And then I realized a lot of these lighter, vibrant or pale colors, the most important thing is actually the first wash when you do get them to be light enough. So what do I mean by that? A light paint can be a substitute for a very bright paint. So if you have a very bright orange or bright green, or bright blue, you don't have a color that matches that, you just don't have it on your palette, it's okay sometimes to substitute it for a light, pale version of that paint, and it still is gonna work in the context of everything. So this sign, for example, had I known what I now know, I would have painted it differently. The reason I got this insight was because I managed to get some of it right. But then when I tried making it brighter, like a brighter, stronger yellow, every yellow I mixed ended up being too dark. Too dark in terms of value, like just dark, dead. I needed it to stay light. Had I known that, I would have painted the first wash much lighter and with a much cleaner yellow and just left it at that. It would not be as vibrant as the reference photo, but at least it will read on a similar plane, if that makes sense. So that was my biggest insight from this. Let me show you some stages real quick on the computer and we'll wrap it up. Okay, so we'll look real quick at some of the stages. I actually had to screenshot this from Instagram, but whatever. The quality won't be perfect. I tried saving the pics, didn't work. But I want to show you, again, the main idea that I had when I started this was the car and the motorcycle, which is why this is how I started. I started right from the focal point. Now, the taxi, it is a white taxi. So this looks way too dark. Now, to be honest with you, it is a little darker than what it was in the picture. But look at how in the context of the full thing, and if you rewind the video, I'm gonna share some images as well. I'm gonna show you the reference too, of course. In the context of the entire painting, this will work. But this is the price you pay for starting with the focal point or starting with a certain detail, which you kind of have to start somewhere. You could start with an overarching wash, of course, but generally speaking, whatever you start with, it's gonna lack the context. You gotta build it up a little. So that would be the first step. One more thing I wanted to mention, I kind of forgot, but we'll get to later on, I'll probably remember. This is one of my favorite spots here. Just look at the natural flow there. I believe that part stayed untouched, especially here and here stayed untouched. I added a bit of details to the rims, nothing in addition to that. Then made progress, continued on to the motorcycle itself. Let's see if we have a zoom in. There we go. So you can see a bit more of the motorcycle and how it connects and contrasts with the car behind it, and the background started to emerge, right? So because these are large areas, what I sometimes like to do, I wanted to mention one thing. Yes, I traced it very accurately with a lot of details. You can see the brick pattern here. The gapped lines represent where it's going to be highlight. The lines that go this way, top to bottom, diagonally, and then the ones go right to left, diagonally as well, are going to be the darks. That's how I mapped it out for myself. Again, you learn what works for you, right? Now, because these are large areas, as I mentioned, I like sometimes to map them out in advance so that whenever I come back with darker paint that has less flow and I have less time to react, I already know what I'm going to paint because I mapped it out with different colors. So, for example, all of this neutral orangey brown color for the background, then this very bright yellow for the foliage, right? So that's how I like to map things out for myself. Some zoomed ins, added a bit of a shadow here. This was challenging, getting this white stripe pattern on the asphalt. Another motorcycle, that's a fun step where everything still flows. Now the background starts to show up before we added the darks for the trees, but at this point, I thought to myself, okay, this is gonna work. Because this already started to feel like a unified background. I still had some doubts, but for the most part, I knew this was probably gonna work. Then I got the idea to make the right section just lighter, like light is spilling from there, because if you look at the entire scene, it does, okay, light comes in this direction, that's no doubt, but it does start light and then it goes gradually darker. I thought, why not play that up and in the final piece, make this section much lighter and make a gradual transition from light to dark. It actually ended up paying off really nicely. This is one big change I made from the reference photo. Added more details to the motorcycle. The signs, this is the sign I told you about, very important. Would have done it a little differently with a bit cleaner color. Probably would have cleaned that blue before I added that yellow on top of that and still kept it a little brighter. But you know what? You learn from that. Next time I know exactly what I'm going to do. And by the way, I made that lighter with opaque yellow ochre later on. But in any case, this is all the stages I've captured on Instagram. And now I'm going to show you some scans of the steps. Some of the previous ones. I think this is really cool. Again, I shared this on Instagram as posts. And then this one you get to see. Here I just cut it out, but you get to see on the right side of my experimentations while I was painting. And some of the brick pattern, how I painted very gently around these stripes, lines, whatever. And this is pretty much it. I hope that makes sense. This was to me a very enjoyable process. And that one insight to me, very personally, is key, right? You're gonna experience different things, you're gonna paint in different ways, but to me that one bit of replacing the brightness with lightness. I know it can be a little complex. I have a couple of videos on the topic, but you don't have to get too bogged down in it. If you haven't experienced it on your own, it's not gonna serve you as well as me. as well as how it serves me. Again, these things need to be experienced with and experimented with, but maybe this gives someone out there the inspiration to go ahead and conduct their own experiments and finding out the things that they love and they enjoy. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank everyone for watching. Be sure to get the Frustration-Free Watercolor course if you want to learn how to paint with complete passion, complete courage, a complete freedom. Let the paint do its thing, get out of the way, get these beautiful smooth transitions that I've shown you in this painting today. Be sure to check that out. It's going to also show you on a very practical level how to get the results you want, some of the very basic techniques, just the essentials, without throwing a bunch of baggage at you. I hope you'll give it a try. I want to thank everyone who supports me over on Patreon. You make this a whole lot more possible for me to share tons of free content with everyone. If you want to get credits at the end of the videos like this, it's running on the screen, be sure to check that out. A few exclusive processes, a few exclusive posts. There will soon be another exclusive video to Patreon, but open to everyone. Okay, I'm gonna probably talk about maybe Thursday's live stream. We'll see, but I do want to post just a video there just to experiment with people watching the video there. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be open even if you don't support me there. All you have to do is just head over there. Maybe you need to follow me, I'm not sure, but just need to head over there and watch it over on Patreon. But in any case, we'll keep you updated on that. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again real soon.